Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have another Christmas card to share with you. I'm just going to keep sharing them until I run out of ideas. It's this cute little forest scene with these adorable little wreaths on the trees and cute little squirrels hiding inside. This card is very simple and came together so quickly. It was inspired by two cards. So the first one I'm showing you is by Sylvia, and this is where I got the idea to put the wreaths on the little doors to the trees. I just thought that was such a cute idea. The second one is by my friend Priyanka. She has just such a good eye for pastel backgrounds, and the colors she uses are amazing. So I pinched the colors for the background from this card of hers. If you saw one of my unboxings on Instagram, I think it was about a week ago, I got this stamp. It's a giant background stamp from Hero Arts. It is gorgeous, but when I opened it, I realized it's not quite what I thought it was going to be. It's the negative of what I thought it would be. I thought this stamp was going to be stamping snowflakes, but instead it's stamping the background and leaves the snowflakes white. So I don't have much experience with stamps like this, so this is the first time I've ever used anything like this. So there is quite a bit of trial and error in this video. And to make things a bit more tricky, I don't actually have a stamping platform big enough for this stamp. I have purchased one because I plan on using this stamp a lot, but I had to do it by hand, and I think that's why this was so tricky. I'm hoping with the stamping platform I can stamp it multiple times and get nice even backgrounds, but for now I just had to go with what I could do by hand. So here I've got some dried marigold and some spun sugar ink, and I tried to go with the swirl, switching between the inks and attempting to get an even coverage. I decided to use my little ink blending tool instead of my brushes for this one because I figured the brushes would just get in all the crevices and fill in the snowflakes, and I didn't want to do that in case it affected the way it stamps. As much as I don't enjoy these particular tools and I do love my brushes, I don't think this tool is at fault for the way that this stamping was turning out. So here is my first attempt at putting it onto paper. I pressed down as hard as I could everywhere, and you're about to see what it looks like. I think my spun sugar is either drying out or needs re-inking or was just too pale. So this is attempt number 2. I decided to use worn lipstick with that same dried marigold, and you can see it was way too defined where I had put each of those inks. So on my final attempt, I just decided to do a huge layer of that worn lipstick and some patches of dried marigold and just hoped for the best. And as you can see, that worked out much better. Still not perfect, and I really do think once I get that big stamping platform, it's totally going to change how that turns out. So I cut my little forest from some white cardstock, and I covered the edges with those post-it notes that are completely sticky on the back. I did this because I really wanted to keep the white frame around the edges. At this point, I didn't know that I was going to cover the whole top with the leaves, so I probably wouldn't have had to cover that, or the bottom with the snow, but I don't plan cards before I go in. I just tend to start making and hope for the best with most of my work. So I'm just giving the trees a little bit of shadow around the edges with some grey ink. And now that that's done, you can see that I have a nice clean frame around the edges, only to cover up half of it soon. I wanted to give the doors a little bit of that shadow as well, so I just stuck some of that post-it underneath and went around the edges. Now, for some reason, I didn't end up filming myself colour these leaves in, but all I used for these were my ink blending brushes and the same coloured inks that I use for the background. So it was the dried marigold and the worn lipstick, and I left some of them white as well. And here I am just sprinkling on some watered down distress ink. I used some pink and orange for this and splattered it over all of the leaves. And then after that I also used some of my white gold watercolour pigment to make them extra shiny and sparkly. Here I am stamping out my cute little squirrels. Twice to make sure that their lines are nice and bold and dark and clear. And now I'm going to colour them in. I'll leave you with some music while I get this done. I'm just using my super simple colouring technique, just using 2 colours in each area and blending them together. With my squirrels coloured in, it was now time to make my little wreaths. I found this wreath. I know that there are stamps as well, but I don't have them yet, as far as I know. I'm sure there might be a set with tiny wreaths, but the only ones I could find while I was looking for them were the dies. And these dies belong to the Build a House Christmas add-on. I think I'm happy that I found the dies rather than stamps because I like that extra bit of dimension that these give. So I coloured my bows in red, gave them a few little white details, and then for my wreaths, I just did spots. Spots of orange, brown, yellow, and then just kind of blended them all together so that they kind of matched the leaves that were hanging down from the top. I then glued on those tiny little bows. For my snowy ground, I used some of the Pixie Dust cardstock by Fawn. I love this cardstock. It is just so beautiful and shiny, and I feel like it makes the perfect snow. To cut this out, I used the flattest of the stitched hillside dies. It was then time to glue my forest scene down. So I've glued my squirrels down, and now I'm going to put glue everywhere except those little doors so that they can still open. I think one of the things I love the most about Fawn is how many sets they have that can be used together. So for my background, I cut it out with my stitched rectangle, and that fits perfectly behind this forest die. I love that you don't have to think about it and cut things to different sizes, and that everything just matches so nicely. It really makes making cards like this much faster and much more seamless. To adhere my leaves at the top, I used a mix of liquid glue and foam squares to give them all alternating dimension. I then trimmed off the excess that was hanging off the edges. So here I am putting some foam squares on the back of my sentiment. I'm keeping it super simple because if I'm going to be honest, all I wanted to do was make this scene, and then I thought I should probably turn it into something Christmassy and add a Christmas sentiment. So the sentiment was a bit of an afterthought in this one. I was more focused on the cute squirrels. now that I've glued that down, the last little step I have to do is stick on those tiny wreaths, and I used some foam squares on the back of them to give them some more dimension. And there we have it, a super sparkly, happy little scene with tiny little squirrels in their little tree houses. I hope you love this card. If you do, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.